Hey guys, and thanks for tuning in to this week's episode, the Dura Grow. The Dura Grow is a three-piece system. The first is the primary reservoir. The primary reservoir holds most of the water and nutrients, and the pump shoots it up into the secondary reservoir. And the secondary reservoir has overflow chambers that will cycle the water back into the primary reservoir to give the circulation. New oxygen will be coming into the water there, and as well as the nutrients is right there for the plants. So tune in and let's get to work. Alright, so we're going to start this project off with red oak board. I wanted this because it's a hardwood. I think it was going to be a little bit more durable because it's going to be outside. And then you're just going to go ahead and repeat that process until you get all of your boards. The first board is going to be the long one, like you see here going into the planer. That's going to be 24 inches. The next is going to be 14 inches, and that's going to be for the secondary reservoir. The primary reservoir is going to be a little bit thicker in the wall. I was 3/4 of an inch in the thickness, and I went to 1/2 inch on the secondary reservoir. Once you get all of your boards ready, you're going to have a pile like there on the left side. What I'm doing right now is just drilling a pilot hole every 2 inches. I wanted to make sure that this is completely sealed up so that there's no leaks. Speaking of leaks, I also used Flex Seal. So once we get done with the primary reservoir, we're going to go ahead and get our secondary reservoir drilled up. I used a drill bit here just so that the screws could pass through, and then I'm going to come back and use the pilot hole. This is a new contraption for me. I really kind of liked this. The reason why was because it really helped hold everything together while I screwed it in. The 90-degree angle also helped ensure that everything was squared up completely. Once we've drilled out the pilot holes, we now can go back and countersink these so that the screws can be hidden. So this is the secondary reservoir, and what I really wanted to do and show you guys was drilling out the drainage holes or the drainage chambers. It's just going off that middle hole there. Use my 90-degree angle to get a complete line all the way through, and then every 3 inches I put a hole. I used 1/2 inch screws here just because I didn't want to go all the way down and split the wood. Now what I'm doing is putting the bottom onto the primary reservoir. So I want to make sure everything is squared up as good as possible, and then I'm going to trace the line outside of that box, which will give me the exact dimensions. I do it like this just in case anything's just a touch off. It'll just make your life easier in the long run. So once we've cut that piece on our table saw, we now can start drilling the holes on the top. Now I used 1-inch screws on the top here, and that was just because there's going to be a lot of weight holding the top to the secondary reservoir, so I didn't want that to fall off. I just went ahead and countersinked these and used the pilot hole to drill all the way down, and now I'm going to go ahead and put the 1-inch screw in. Now we're moving on to the stain here. So I used an espresso stain here. I like the darkness that it turned out to be. What happened was I filled the holes that I countersunk with some wood filler, and I didn't like how the stain made them so dark. So I went back and stained it quite a bit more, let the stain sit for an hour or two before I wiped it off. It hides the holes a little bit better. What I'm doing here is taking my jigsaw and just cutting out a square, a rough square. It doesn't have to be fancy. We're going to come back and route it. I just want to get the general work out of the way, the excess waste out of the way. So I'm going to have this sped up just because it was a longer process and I didn't want to bore you guys to death. So I went ahead and just routed over the top, just getting it completely flush with the inner wall of the secondary reservoir. I'm just making sure that the net pot can sit in nice and snug. And last but not least, you want to take all your hydroton rock and really make sure that there's no debris on them. One of the reasons is because there's a lot of dust and dirt that will end up clogging your pump. To prevent any damage to the pump, you want to make sure that these rocks are 100% clean and just free of any debris or dust. I go ahead and do this for about 5 more minutes just to make sure, and then I'll let it sit for about half an hour to allow the moisture to really seep into the rock. Once that's complete, we're going to go ahead and fill our net pot up about 10 to 15% of the way, and then we're going to grab our tree and start to plant that into our net pot. This is one of the most important parts, is we want to make sure that all of the dirt is removed from the root ball. How we do that, it's kind of like washing your hair. You just get in there and you scrub away. You do want to be a little bit gentle, but don't be afraid to get a little bit more rough. Once we grab most of the dirt off, we're going to take it back and really give it a full wash to make sure that all the dirt is completely off of our root ball there. I did this 3 or 4 times. Just made sure I changed the water when it got half full in the tub, and put it to some other plants for good use. I didn't waste any water here. My plants were thirsty. So now go ahead and put your tree or whatever plant you have and really start to just take a handful at a time and fill this guy up. About every 2 inches, you want to go ahead and even the rocks out within the net pot and kind of push them down by tampering them just with your hand. You want to ensure that this is going to be significant for pressure so that the plant doesn't move around until the roots grow into the net pot, and then you'll be secured. I stopped about 1/2 inch to the top just to make sure that I had extra room for some other foliage that I'll introduce at the end of this video. And that's starting to look nice. We got 2 little olives already grown in. We drilled a hole in the back part of the Dura grow just to feed the electrical wire through to the solar panel. We had about 11 feet, so we went and put it up on our awning, and I'll show you that at the end of the video as well. Now we're just making sure everything is snug, fit, and we're going to put an extra cap on the top just so that the tube doesn't slip back into the primary reservoir. It's just a countermeasure to help ensure that we don't have to do more work after we put our plant in. I used about 6 gallons of water here. You can see that I have the holes on all 4 sides of the secondary reservoir. You want to make sure that you drill those out. I did 4 on each side. That's just some easy drainage for the overflow. And look at that beautiful foliage that'll help with the evaporation. You won't have to fill your Dura grow up with water every week. I say about every 3 to 4 weeks I change the water to add some more nutrients. And it looks great. Now I wrapped the electrical cord around that lattice and just went all the way up to the awning, and then I put my solar panel, plugged it in. It works great. Alright, so there you have it. The Dura grow is done. It looks amazing. Added that extra plant foliage there to really help with the evaporation, and it just really looks nice and will cover up that net pot there. It'll start to kind of vine down a little bit. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll give you some more cool content like this. So, alright, see you guys next time.